All right, well, hi everybody. Thanks for joining me. I was gonna try to give you guys a live view into my working from home situation, but looks like that feature's not available on this particular webinar. So thank you for joining me. I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy out there. Um, like many of us, we're all kind of hunkered down and working in our basement, and I really appreciate everybody joining me today. As I see, there's still a bunch more of you jumping online here. But with that said, let's get started. So really going to talk about remote monitoring here and what Onset offers and how it could actually be a convenient way to get your data all from the comfort of your own home. So a couple housekeeping things here. We are recording this, and the recording does get sent out a couple days after, so if you want to listen to me over and over again, you can. Questions, I know that, and thank you for submitting them before. I appreciate that. That actually, I spent the morning actually changing some of the stuff that I was going to present based upon your questions in advance, but please feel free to load it up as I go, and I will, if it's relevant, I'll try to answer the question in real time as we're going here. A little about me. I'm a product manager. I've been at Onset about 22 years now. I was probably in sales for about 13 years as an application specialist, and now over on the product management side for the past 9 or 10 years, working with typically the indoor products, as we defined, are the building performance products. But with that being said, and here's our working from home group. That's me in the upper right with my pirate flag and American flag and all that fun stuff. So just to give you where our marketing bunch is at and how we're kind of tackling things from home. I'm sure many of you are in the same boat. So a little about Onset. We make the Hobo data loggers. We solely focus on data logging and monitoring. We were founded in 1981. Everything is designed, manufactured, and done right here on Cape Cod in Massachusetts in Bourne. And that's one of the interesting things, that our company is up and running right now. We're still manufacturing products, we're still shipping products, and I'll tell you why we are one of the critical businesses that need to be open during this period in a little bit here. But basically everybody who does not have to do anything in the office has been sent home. It's actually been kind of interesting. I was talking to the president, Jim, through Teams earlier today, and it's kind of interesting. You can just pop in and have video chats, and we see what our kids are doing with Zoom, and my daughter was on a whole huge class earlier this morning with like 80 other kids on there. So it's a neat way to kind of connect with people. I don't know, it could definitely change business moving forward. Just going through this here, I want to talk a little bit about the remote monitoring and kind of what's called the Internet of Things, talk through some of the applications, the benefits of remote monitoring, and then look at our two solutions. First in the Bluetooth low energy solutions, and then our HOBOnet wireless and RX station solutions. And then I want to jump over to a demo. So take a look at Hobo Mobile and then look at HOBOlink. And as I said before, definitely be taking questions during this as well as they come up. So the Internet of Things is here, and it's been here for a while now. All folks are using wearables. You're seeing this now in smart homes with Google and all their toys and Alexa. I found it interesting that there was a selling point on a dishwasher that Alexa could notify you of something. I don't know, it's weird how everything's connected. But in times like these, it definitely makes it nice. And the growth of this, we really saw the Internet of Things kind of take off when Bluetooth Low Energy first came out, going into um, back into 2012. You know, we kind of adopted it after you saw Apple kind of jumped on board with it, and they put it into all their products, starting with the iPhone 4S and then into their laptops. And we had obviously talked to some of their developers, and you know, realizing that this Bluetooth Low Energy, which is different than your traditional earpiece Bluetooth, where Bluetooth, it just kind of makes everything easier. There's no technically individual connecting, and it's always just sending information out. And so obviously that's been incorporated into all these different devices. Hard to believe there's going to be, you know, estimated 50 billion devices that are connected by the end of 2020. So I was reading a couple articles a couple weeks back on remote monitoring, and just seeing what else is out there on the internet, and I dumped a bunch of those into one of these word jumble up things, and kind of, you know, brings up all the different pieces here of the different things. And you know, some of the words kind of jumped out at me, which is why I left this here. The bottom right, you know, require manual, uh, up top condition processes, uh, time physical process, IoT, um, and then of course, you know, data and monitoring and remote and sensors and wireless and stuff like that. So I don't know, just one of these programs that I found for free online, which is why the watermark is there. But yeah, you know, just again, kind of an interesting visual here. So about some of the applications. I was initially going to just kind of focus this on building performance, but with the signups that we had, 52% of you folks are focused on the building performance side of things. 32% of you were interested in climate monitoring, 12% in the water monitoring, and 4% in cold chain. So I've kind of went through and modified things this morning to try to touch on all of these pieces. So bear with me, we are going to cover a lot of things here. I see some of the questions coming in, and I will address those in some of the slides coming up here. Oops. So where can we do, you know, where can we do remote monitoring be used? And my high level answer is everywhere. It just depends upon, you know, what it is that you need to do. There's certainly a convenience of being able to get your information to your mobile device or to the internet or to your computer without having to actually be there. Now, one of the reasons why Onset is open right now is because of our cold chain business. We have large pharmaceutical companies that rely on our temperature loggers, specifically the InTemp product line, to be able to make sure that their shipments of pharmaceuticals maintain that temperature that they need to during transit. And one of the sales reps brought up, one of his customers said this about the Bluetooth product line, where it's truly a touchless system. And you know, that kind of stuck with me. It's like, oh, that's actually kind of cool, because when you think about it, once the once the shipper actually gets the data logger and they configure it and they start it and put it into the package, you never have to open that package again. You think about all the touch points, whether you know it's going through UPS or FedEx or in and out of all these buildings. With traditional USB loggers, they'd have to open up the package, they'd have to download the logger, or at least find it to make sure that the blinking light was either green or red, to make sure that you know, everything was within range. And with this, either using a gateway or your mobile device, you're able to offload the information and know what's going on with that package without opening it. And so basically it can get to the endpoint without being touched. So, you know, in today's climate, that's really really kind of a neat feature and a you know, a different way to think about it. You know, from somebody who's maybe not handling packages on a daily basis. Looking a little more at the cold chain and pharmaceutical, that out of the way. Uh, sorry, back end stuff here. So the Intemp product line is being used in hospitals and clinics for refrigerators and freezers, mainly monitoring vaccines. We're looking at clinical trials as things are being shipped and tested. I obviously talked about the pharmaceutical logistics and the shipping. And then finally, laboratory storage. We have two products that actually will monitor dry ice and cryo, so get you down to basically negative 200 degrees. So gives you a lot of flexibility there. As I said before, this product line, I'm not going to touch on much more than what I have here. One, because it would have made this even longer. And two, I just don't know all the ins and outs of the product line at this point. There's been a lot of changes since last time I worked with it. So if you are interested in more information on this product, in the question screen, just type in Intemp or Pharma, and I'll make sure to get you some information after this webinar, and we can follow up with you. Oops. So where else can these be used? And by no means am I going to touch on all the different applications. You know, I've already seen something coming in. Are there different loggers between commercial and industrial settings? Not really. You know, you're going to find that our products can literally be used anywhere and everywhere. Thanks for throwing in the farmer stuff there, people. I appreciate it. Steve and Haroon, we'll make sure to get you out some information there. But looking at these here, you know, in greenhouses, actually, with the cannabis market continuing to grow, we're certainly, you know, seeing some folks using product data loggers in that market. Title studies. This is actually this was from Hurricane Katrina, where the USDA was using, or USGS, I forget which one, was using our water level loggers to see the tidal surge. Environmental monitoring, you have a weather station there on top of a ski slope. In agriculture, a local farm here who has our HOBOnet system installed. Urban climate studies, irrigation research. And as we look at some of the building performance applications, museums and libraries, I'm always amazed at, you know, go down to the Smithsonian a couple of years ago and you walk around. You got to look for them, but you can usually find the hobos tucked in there, and a lot of places in New York and whatnot. And their monitoring is obviously about the pieces of work, you know, being maintained their temperature and humidity, whereas maybe in office spaces we're worried about comfort complaints and you know, people's well-being. Warehouses, it's not only just the product that's maybe moving through the warehouse, but it's the warehouse itself. You know, looking at temperature stratification from the top down to the bottom, maybe in the middle of some of the rows if it's tightly packed. You know, a lot of that matters, especially if it's a freezer. Looking at storage areas, I thought it was appropriate for a wine pitcher during these events. Research centers, you know, we have a lot of, in our backyard, we have Woods Hole, you know, Oceanographic Research Center. So, you know, a lot of folks here in Northeast doing some monitoring of their facilities and temperature controlled, you know, fish tanks where you need to make sure you maintain that. So the benefits, social distancing, the popular word out there right now. You don't need to go near people. So that's obviously the benefit here. You can sit in your basement in your pajama bottoms and and pull in the data that you need. You reduce costs. You're not traveling as much. You think about to do the manual offloads, whether it's a half an hour, whether it's a half a day, whether it's getting on a plane to go get that data. Overall, and you will find that some of these products are a little more expensive, but when you weigh the travel costs, you can definitely see some reduced savings. Near real-time data. I don't say real-time, but it depends upon how you look at real-time. Our viewpoint of it is with the MX products, the data is near real time as every minute, and the HOBOnet, it's being uploaded every 10 minutes. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Alarming and notifications. You can start to understand what's going on so that you can then reach out to somebody who still may be at a facility. One of the things that concerns me right now is all of the school buildings that are not being occupied. And, as this goes into some of the warmer months, a bunch of years back, a local school in Plymouth, brand new school opened up, but they didn't maintain the heating and air conditioning over the summer months. And when they went in there in August, there was one whole wing of the building that they had to redo because of all the mold that happened. So, being able to get this information as it's happening and then jump in and see, what's trending. Again, with the improved data visualizations, save that 5 times. There's definitely the benefit of being able to see this information, faster response times to incidents if something does occur. And then in my opinion, just convenience. There is a convenience of being able to get this information and not, have to bother folks, whether you're in a residential setting. We see a lot going on with dorm room studies, again, comfort complaints, but somebody who can walk down the hall and offload the information using Bluetooth, or having a device, a gateway to get the data out, it makes it definitely a little more convenient. So looking at the Hobo solutions, first we're going to take a look at the Bluetooth series, the MX Bluetooth series. You can configure it and download the data to your mobile device or tablet within 100-foot range. Let me find that question real quick. And then you can get your data remotely through the MX Gateway. So there isn't a way to increase the 100-foot range. I have seen it in some instances get out to about 150 feet, absolute clear line of sight. But obviously, when you start going through walls, that's going to cut down on that. And with that, if you are having issues with the range there, or you need to go much further, you may want to take a look at our other system here, which is the HOBOnet monitoring system. This system uses 900 megahertz technology. It has the ability to go up to 2,000 feet line of sight. Even though I just say temperature and humidity monitoring, I actually didn't change this slide. I am going to get into all the environmental and agricultural sensors that we have available for this right now too. And then there's a station where all this connects back to, and the data gets out either cellular, Wi-Fi, or Ethernet. So what we are going to do is dive into, and just so to be aware, the Bluetooth data is a star network, so there's no repeaters, there's no way to kind of hop along, whereas the HOBOnet, it's a meshing network, and that technology actually allows you to have repeaters out there and extend the distance and things along those lines. So the gateway costs $350. You're getting near real-time measurements up to the HOBOlink dashboard. You can receive alarm notifications for out of range, low battery, stopped logger or a missing logger if it decides to get legs and walk off. The gateway needs to be within 100 feet. It uses Wi-Fi or Ethernet. It is AC powered. It is not weatherproof. And it does use power over Ethernet. I know we a lot of times get questions that come in, can we somehow make this cellular based? And I have done that. You guys are full of questions. This is awesome, man. We're going to be here forever. Thank you. Yeah, so you can get those cellular like MiFi's and connect that to the gateway through Wi-Fi. And I had gotten a cheap one at Best Buy for like 30 bucks, and the data plan was like $10 a month, and it worked out great. It's compatible, obviously, with the MX loggers. And there is a subscription fee to the HOBOlink, which is $50 yearly. So I'm going to kind of step you through the different product lines that we have here. The first being the MX1100 series. As you can see, we have a number of different measurements. Now, some of these have them built right in, like the first two products in the 1101 and 1102. And then with two of the newer products that we came out with this past year in the MX1104 and 5, it now gives you the ability to plug sensors into it, which really kind of opens up the opportunity to expand upon the measurements. So things like AC current using current transformers or CTs, plugging in a differential pressure sensor or a gauge pressure sensor, or looking at DC current. With that logger, since it has a generic 4 to 20 milliamp input or 0 to 5 volt input, it allows you to connect up to third-party sensors. So you may see a measurement here that's not on the list that you may be looking to do. Definitely reach out to our technical folks. And if you have any questions on whether a sensor would be compatible, with one of our units, and we can kind of, take a look at it from there. Now, what I'll say is these are the loggers that are traditionally used in indoor applications or technically can't get wet. The two new bottom products there, they are splash proof, but I wouldn't leave them outside for long periods of time. Which brings us over to our 2300 series. And these are truly weatherproof loggers. They're made to withstand rainstorms and all that sort of stuff. I can see these being used in industrial settings where you may have spray down type situations, or even if you need to get an outside measurement. Sometimes it always helps if you're monitoring a building to understand what's going on right there at the building outside with just a simple temperature and humidity measurement, as opposed to maybe relying on an airport that could be 30, 40 miles away with their traditional weather station. So a bunch of different options here, depending upon whether you want everything self-contained, something with a temperature and humidity probe. Sometimes you need to snake those into walls. So we don't have longer cords on these. The most that we can do is 6 feet. And the main reason there is just the signal strength, and we were losing quality of the readings. So that's why we only have them that long. But with that being said, if you do need to place them into other areas, you may want to look at our waterproof loggers. And you may say, well, why am I talking about the waterproof loggers for indoor applications? Well, it's a temperature logger that's $54. And if all you need is temperature, it's definitely a great example of how these can be used in tons of different environments. They have a user replaceable battery. the battery's good for 1 to 2 years. And I just back up, sorry, on all of these products, the batteries are user replaceable. On the 1100 series, it's typically about a year, and on a 2300 series, it's about 3 years. And typically, most of these can store about 80 to 90,000 measurements. So to give you for instance of what that means in real life, if you're recording every 15 minutes, you got about a year's worth of data. So a question on the response times. I'll be honest with you, Carl, I don't know that off the top of my head. I believe it's about 5 minutes, but we do have that information on the website. So, and what I'm going to do too here is there's just hundreds of questions coming in, and please keep them coming because we are definitely going to follow up with you if I'm not able to get to all these here. Now, pulling my daughter, wait, what? Uh, so that's the one thing is Bluetooth cannot communicate through water. We've seen it maybe go 3, 4, 5 inches, something like that. So if you are using these underwater or in streams and rivers, you do need to pull them up out of the water to get the information. I haven't seen anything really that will communicate through water. It's another good question, sorry, and let me just back up here for 1 second. So just going back to these guys here, the operating range on these is -20 to +70 C, which is -4 to 158 Fahrenheit. As far as these, the data loggers themselves have that same spec, but the temperature probes go from -40 up to 100 degrees C or 212 Fahrenheit. These guys here, they also go -20 to +70 or -4 to 158. And then finally, our last two, our last two that I had originally put in here because I could see these being used in lab environments. But obviously there has been some interest. I saw some questions flying past here earlier of looking at pH. So this is our pH logger that does temperature and pH. I actually had it hanging out of my pool last year and one of the 2300s, and set up a dashboard for my daughter because she wanted to know when the pool was warm enough at the bottom to go swimming. So there's other water quality measurements that we do, and I might circle back. We don't have those in Bluetooth right now, Richard. So those are still our optical USB. So yes, we get into dissolved oxygen and some other things along those lines, conductivity and a few other things. So definitely check out the website there. And then of course we have our water level sensor, and what makes this unique is it has the barometric sensor with it, and it also has user replaceable batteries that are good for about a year. So that's where it's processing. Whoa, sorry about that. That's where it's processing the real-time water level on the fly and in the app. And again, if you were in an environment where the gateway could be running like in a lab type environment, that information would be able to go up as well. So how does it work? Again, I am going to do a demo here in a little bit, but essentially you go to HOBOlink, you sign up for an account, you connect your gateway using the Hobo Mobile app, and you configure that. Then you configure your loggers, and then you place your loggers, and then the data starts coming up. But I'm gonna take a minute here and go through the app so you can actually see what that process is. So Hobo Mobile itself, it's available for iOS and Android. I know that we've had many requests to go to a desktop computer, which we do not have the capabilities at this point. We are looking into it. Um, we had looked into it pretty hard a couple years back, and Windows just wasn't up to snuff with they were probably the last to the game in the Bluetooth low energy market. Shocker. But so yeah, so stay tuned with that. But again, you can configure your logger. You can download it. The loggers locally. You can share and you can view your data files. And actually, you can send them up to HOBOlink if you have that feature enabled, which I'll show you that as well. And then HOBOlink, it's HOBOlink.com. You can get your data 24/7. You can verify that all of your different devices are actually working. You can manage the alarm notifications over the web. You can configure dashboards so you can see more of the critical information. And you can also pull information together. One of the features that I did not put on here that many of you who use the traditional either USB or Bluetooth loggers, you know that you're dealing with individual files. And sometimes that's a pain because you've got to, you know, get those into Excel, or you bring them into HOBOware, and then you got to export them and combine them, and you got to do all this silliness to maybe run some of your analysis. The advantage of what HOBOlink does for you is that you can basically go through and select the time frame, and then select the loggers that you want, and then you get one exported data set, either in Excel or a CSV file to then work with that. So there's definitely some convenience of getting your data up into HOBOlink. All right, so I am going to see if this is going to work. I tried it earlier. But what I'd like to do is talk to you, have our voiceover guy here talk to you guys.
From farms to greenhouses to forests and vineyards, data drives better understanding and better decision making. With meaningful, accessible data, you can help protect your crops from climate hazards like frost or dry soil, minimize the use of water and the application of pesticides and fungicides, or improve the quality of your crops. Onset's HOBOnet field monitoring system will transform the way you collect and view data. With up to 50 wireless sensors streaming data back to a central, cloud-based weather station, you can monitor all your critical locations without having to run cables or visit the site. At the heart of the system is Onset's field-proven Hobo RX3000 weather station, known across many industries for its easy setup, robust design, and research-grade accuracy. Our wireless sensors cover a range of outdoor measurements, including temperature, humidity, rain, wind, soil moisture, evapotranspiration, and more. These compact sensors can be placed anywhere you need them, up to 1,500 feet apart. They use intelligent mesh networking to route data through surrounding sensors for the most reliable communication path. The sensors are easy to install with several mounting options, and they include a built-in solar panel for battery charging. You simply connect the sensor to the network with the press of a button and use the signal strength icon to position it for the best possible connection. More powerful than ever, Onset's cloud-based HOBOlink software has been enhanced to make your field monitoring data more meaningful and more accessible. The HOBOlink dashboard enables instant visualization of your current and historical data. It can be customized to your specific needs with the dashboard builder and our library of widgets. And you can set up an email or text alarm so you are immediately notified of critical conditions such as frost or low soil moisture. The map view feature gives you a view of current conditions over your entire monitoring area, and exporting data or scheduling data deliveries to other programs is a snap. With the HOBOnet field monitoring system, you can measure conditions over large areas, once considered too costly or impractical to monitor. Now, with near real-time information and a wider coverage area, you can protect your crop, optimize crop management, and gain better data and more insights than ever before. Contact Onset today to learn how you can benefit from this powerful wireless field monitoring system.
All right. Thank you, voiceover dude. Hopefully that came through okay. I was kind of watching it on another screen here, so I know it was a little choppy. For those folks who've kind of come in late, we are recording this, so this will be available afterwards. We usually send it out in an email after the fact. So let's take a little more of a deeper dive into the HOBOnet system itself. So at the heart of this, you know, you have, and that video was a little dated. We've come out with some new products since then, but really it's one of our stations, the RX3000 or the 2100. It's the HOBOnet wireless sensors and it's HOBOlink. And that's pretty much what you need to kind of get up and running, and then it's kind of scalable from there. In terms of the wireless technology here and the sensors themselves, it uses the 900 megahertz. Now the reason why we went with that is because it does penetrate, you know, things like vegetation and walls much better than something like a 2.4 gigahertz or Wi-Fi or things along those lines. These will communicate up to 2,000 feet, although I have personally been involved in 2 installations where I've seen this go up to over a mile. One was a mile and one was 1.2 miles. I mean, absolutely prime, you know, flat situations that were mounted 10 feet up in the air, but it was pretty impressive. You can have up to 50 wireless sensors per station. To join it, it is pretty simple. You just push the button to join it, both on the station and the sensor itself. There is onboard memory, so if one of these happens to go offline, it actually goes into a recovery mode where it sends the latest data, the most current data, as well as it fills in the back data going into HOBOlink. They are powered by rechargeable batteries with the built-in solar panel, but if you're using these in a low light situations, in colder, like down below -20, they're rated down to -40. Or in an indoor application, you can switch to lithium batteries, which I recently finished up a test around my neighborhood here where we claim a 1-year battery life. I was seeing in some cases 18 to 24 months. But a lot of that depends upon how much traffic might be going through some of the modes or through the wireless sensors themselves. And of course, you can get alarm notifications. Yeah, so there are alarm notifications. Excuse me. Yeah, you can get low battery alarms through the web, and I'll show you that in HOBOlink here and when I do the demo. So there's not only like temperature and humidity alarms, but there's also system alarms, and that's both on the MX products as well as this product line. So we have 3 different flavors of our RX3000. There's the Ethernet, there's the Wi-Fi, and then there is the cellular. We're seeing more people who are maybe in an indoor environment actually using the Ethernet and the Wi-Fi because essentially, we have some free plans here that aren't that limited in my opinion. So, definitely if you have the opportunity, take advantage of that. I think I saw a question about, security in here at some point, and sometimes, the best way to get around the IT or things like that is to use a cellular. Um, plan and one of those units. Um, so the solar panel the solar panels don't work in a inside lights. So in a greenhouse, obviously you're getting natural lighting coming through there, but typical indoor either LED or whatever old style lights, they will not recharge the products. So again, those lithium batteries, they stand up pretty well though. Looking at this is one of our new series. It's a what we call a micro RX station. Basically, these are all cellular enabled. Um, some of them have a built-in solar panel. Some of them don't, so they're just going to run off of batteries. Or if it's inside, you can plug it into a AC power adapter and use the batteries as a battery backup. Now we've got the first two stations that you can plug essentially five sensors into as well. Now they'll just do 5 sensors, and then for some of the water applications for water level, um, you have the sensor here as well as a built-in barometric pressure sensor, and then you can also plug in 5 additional smart sensors. And then on the right, we have the HOBOnet stations that, again, you can have 5 sensors, physical sensors plugged into it, but then there's, all of the wireless sensors, obviously, that you can use. Here are all the different HOBOnet sensors that we currently have. We've come out with a couple new ones since the time of the first release. There's some of the new ones are the leaf wetness, the ultrasonic wind speed and direction, and then our soil moisture sensors. We partner up with the meter company or the meter group, also known as Decagon. And actually just hitting the market is the Teros 11, 12, and 21 sensors. Those actually, I think, just got released on Friday. So somebody brought up the point of we are missing an analog input in this, and you are absolutely 100% right. We've got one generic input for this product line right now, which is the pulse input. So that can be hooked up to flow meters or a kilowatt hour transducer like a watt node. But yeah, we have that on our radar. I'm hopeful that we will see that this year. But we'll see what happens there. And yes, we are hoping to make sure that has excitation power as well. So on the range, Chuck's asking how far through vegetation. It really kind of depends upon how thick. I apologize. There seems to be a moose running through upstairs. I think that's my daughter and the dog. Apologies. Vegetation, it depends upon how dense it is and how wet it is. I've seen things vary. Like we're going to be getting here in the Northeast a pretty heavy rainstorm. If it hasn't already started, it's going to hit us pretty soon over the next couple hours. And I've definitely seen where as the trees and as things get wet, that does cut it down. So it really depends. Does it bring it down to 100 feet? No. It doesn't. So, there's just some things, I think if we can understand what the vegetation is, then we can kind of maybe talk to it a little more, um, and speak a little better to it. But yes, vegetation is definitely going to um, bring that down. So looking at this here, with the introduction of this, we've obviously been getting some interest outside of the agricultural markets. So we recently came out with some modified, HOBOnet sensors, with the one here being temperature and humidity. Um, yes, these devices do work with the RX3000. So if you're currently an existing RX3000 user, all you need to do is do a firmware update, which is over the air through HOBOlink, and then purchase a HOBOnet manager that will plug into one of the flex spots on the front of the logger, and you can then start using wireless sensors with it. But as you can see, these don't have solar panels, so we do have AC power options for the two stations, whereas we recommend the lithium batteries for the indoor. And then I just kind of wanted to take a look at some of our the questions always come up at trade shows. When people look at our products, they're like, "Oh man, that looks super expensive," and just wanted to give you a rough idea of what a basic and an intermediate and advanced weather station would kind of look at price wise, just to give you a rough idea. And that was one of the feedback, actually, from the questions that came in earlier, is that folks wanted to know what pricing is, so what we're looking at here. So. Um, that's kind of out there. Obviously, we sell all of this a la carte, and you can mix and match depending upon your needs. Obviously, um, the soil moisture, what depths can it be measured? I believe it comes with a 5 meter cable, so you'd be able to go down 5 meters, the max. I don't know whether that's uh, actually needed or not, but you can certainly do that. Sorry, there's just a ton of questions here. Thank you again. Um, there's a lot of people online too. Thanks for joining me today. This is really kind of cool. Um, so I wanted to take a look at some of the installations. Unfortunately, I don't have any real good pictures of this system being installed in indoor environments, but we've got some really cool some installations here that we've done. And one of these were in Portugal. A friend of the president of the company owns this vineyard, and he's been tracking everything based upon his gut all these years, and finally wanted to put technology in place, and start to understand what his gut tells him versus what the data tells him. And this was interesting because we set him up with the equipment, and he flew over with it, and we kind of looked at this um, from Google Maps. But what we didn't really understand was this huge slope that's here. And when we initially looked at the property, it looked flat like this. We went, oh yeah, this is no problem, man. We're going to be able to, meet this, and you're not going to need any repeaters. Well, what you end up getting here is about a 450-foot drop off at like a 45 vertical or something like that. So what we ended up having to do was install repeaters sort of here to get the data up. Now, obviously, these guys finally found their way up here, but this kind of shows you the advantages of the meshing network, where it's going to kind of hop, and and actually it was good that we put this repeater down here, because as the plants grew, they couldn't necessarily get all the way up to those next sensors there. So this is one installation. We have a smaller installation here in Sandwich at PJ's Cranberries. He was looking mainly for frost alerts. He experienced probably about 3-4 years ago, um, we had a really late frost. I think it was after Memorial Day, and this side of his bog actually gets about 5 degrees colder than the rest of the bog, and he lost about a quarter of that particular crop there. So he's been using the system to get alarms, and actually I think he's added on to it now too, because he's right on the ocean. And so, depending upon the wind speed and direction, will really determine, whether or not he needs to get out there and turn on his pumps. And I alluded to this one earlier. This was Coonamessett Farm, actually about a half a mile from here, and they were helping us out when we were going through the development, and we really kind of had a shared interest where we could go on property and update these and mess around with them and really work with them. And the flip side, they've obviously got the system and are able to use the data. And talking with Farmer Stan, some of these greenhouses, they grow year round, and so they have heaters in them. And on some of the cold nights, the heaters are old, they really need to be replaced. But he got, an alert saying that the temperature dropped below a particular point. In years past, it probably would have waited 8 hours, until he got there the next morning. But he was actually able to get out there at night and go fix the problem. So again, the advantages of getting this information, actionable information, and then being able to go do something about it in near real time. And then finally, you have my test system. So this was during development, and basically I had a maxed out system all throughout my neighborhood. Yes, my neighbors think I'm nuts, but I get to meet a lot of my neighbors too, which was kind of cool. And then up and down here, the power lines. So basically going through and just kind of throwing these up in the trees, not installing them correctly, trying to break the product, and eventually it actually worked well because we improved the case design, some of the gaskets over the time from when we initially went into development to when we released. I think we went through 3 different case designs. So, really getting out there and working with the product is important. One of the things that I do like to point out in this is this particular section right here. You can see where you have a lot of sensors that are using this particular one sensor to get back home. That in a situation like that, that is where you would potentially see a quicker battery drain on the lithium batteries, as opposed to some of these endpoints, which lasted much longer because they're only sending information up. Now, I haven't seen any issues on the rechargeable batteries because that was getting some sun there. But it did notice, there are some things you need to take into consideration. So different times of year, the sun angle, you may have to go out and reposition sensors occasionally if you start to see the battery life dropping off. But again, you can get alerts for that sort of stuff. So let me get over to my demo here. I just realized I'm running long here. Sorry, I wanted to add in all this additional content. I thought it was going to be useful. So my apologies for running a little long here. Let me, all right. I am switching computers here, so bear with me one second. All right, there we go. One technology works. So this is the Hobo Mobile program. So we're going to take a step back to the MX products here for a minute, and I'm going to walk you through kind of how these work, and then I am going to jump over into HOBOlink, and then we can start taking a look at the RX3000 and the 2100s and the wireless sensors and all that sort of fun stuff in the cloud. So the first thing, when you come in and you're working with a gateway, at the top you see that there's a loggers and a gateway tab. One of these I have configured, the other one I don't. If you haven't already signed up for a HOBOlink account, you would want to do that before you kind of get going here. And then in settings, you have the ability to put in your HOBOlink credentials. And you can put in your username and password. So basically moving forward, any of the loggers that are configured with your mobile app, that will then go up into your account. And then you have the default preferences to either have these automatically work with the gateway or send the information up through Hobo Mobile when you do a download, a manual download, or physically going to the logger. And you do have the ability to override that in the settings. There was a question early on about multiple people in or getting data up to HOBOlink. So if you do have multiple people that are on a project that are maybe starting loggers, you are going to have to give them the same username and password that you're using. So we do not have user roles set up in the cloud at this point. So that's something I'd love to see, but unfortunately, I don't see it happening anytime soon. So, in settings, you can set it from US to SI as well. And then just coming back into the data logger screen here, what I'll do is pull up one of the loggers that I have here that was obviously located in a Bubba keg at one point. So when I was doing testing with the gateway, I've got about 130 loggers spread around my house and outside and all over the place. So they were hidden. I was trying to put them into unique things to cut down on the range to see if I could, essentially break the system. So what I'm going to do is configure the logger. And so you can change the name here if you want. We'll go ahead and do that. You can put it into a group. So, this will help maybe sort your loggers a little bit for logger management. You can set your logging interval, to the different settings there. You can set it up for a delayed start, or you can have it start immediately or a push button start. I'm going to set this one up for, what time is it? Push this out an hour. So I'll set that up so I can show you the differences of how these things look in HOBOlink. I'll start the next one immediately. This is where you're going to set your alarms. So you can set high and low points. You can either use the slidey bar or you can tap in there and put it to specifically what you want and type in there. You can also have it so, let's say you're working in a freezer application and the doors are open for 15 minutes. You can say, don't give me an alarm till, after an hour or something like that. Because I know that, if something isn't going to spoil within that particular time frame. Hit done. Oh, that's something new that we added too that I wanted to make you aware of. So for some of the loggers, you can actually now put a sensor label on there as well. So for these loggers that have two temperature sensors or 4 temperature sensors, you can put those labels on there. When you're working with the gateway, I do recommend setting your alarms to clear when they come back within limits. You can show the LED or not. And then finally at the bottom here, again, this gives you the ability to set whether you want the data to go up to through Hobo Mobile when you download it or through the gateway. So, and you probably saw that change too. On some of these, you have the ability to turn off Bluetooth. Well, if you turn off Bluetooth, it's not going to work with the gateway. So when you select it for gateway, that's why we make sure that you keep the Bluetooth on. So from here, I'm just going to hit start. And what you'll see here is this is then uploading the configuration, and it's gone up to HOBOlink. So let me just start this other guy real quick. And yes, this was out in the tree near my neighbor's chickens. The testing we got to do, people, you know, it's a crazy life. Uh, and I'm just going to blow through this real quick just to start it. And the configuration's gone up. Now, one of the things that I actually probably should have done first was configured that other gateway that I have down here in the basement office. So let me jump over and show you how that works. So I'll pick the gateway by tapping on it. The first thing you're going to do, you can see that there's 97 loggers that are currently within range of this gateway. We're going to go to network settings. Ooh. Huh. Well, that's interesting. This is why we don't do demos, right? Where'd it go? Huh. Demos are fun. Let's try this other one. So this gateway, good Peter Gabriel song, by the way. You come over and you can select your Wi-Fi settings. Mine is obviously set up, but you put in the Wi-Fi network name and the password. And then once that's done, you come to configure and you hit start. This also gives you the ability to name your gateway as well. So, and then once you hit start, you get the green check mark that's here. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to explore that more later. So, okay, let me get us over to HOBOlink. So, oh geez. Let me change presenters here again. Oh, this is one thing that I did want to touch on too, and I think I saw somebody put in a question here in regards to an API. We do have the ability web services so that your server could hit our server to get the data out. So just know that this is available, and you know, if it's needed, definitely reach out to us or check it out on our website, and we can get you more information on it. Oops. Let's go to HOBOlink. So I'm going to log in with my account that I've been using. That's what happens when you try to set up everything beforehand. And what I'm going to first do is come over and show you the MX devices here. So in terms of the loggers that I've got in the account right now are 120. You can do some sorting in here. If we look at the last configuration date, what you're going to see here is that essentially both of these loggers have been configured by Hobo Mobile, and then the information's been you know, uploaded, so the configuration's there. Now, one of the gateways hasn't gotten to one of these guys down here yet. But in terms of setting up alarms for your gateway, and these are the system alarms that I was talking about, you can add a new alarm. Yes, it'll yell at you because you haven't saved it yet. And then you can set up a variety of different or all four. And from here, you can send these you know, out to either an email address or a text message. If you want to send this to multiple people, you just keep adding new alarms in here. So that will go out to wherever that needs to go to, and we'll just save that and then return back to the MX devices. So in terms of being able to see your data in HOBOlink here, what I'm going to do is shoot over to the dashboards. And we've got a dashboard that I've got set up here for around the house. So you can put widgets in here, which are all the little things. I'll get to the exports in a minute, Laura. I'll show you. You can set up the different graphs. You can set them for past day, week, or month. You can use the little scrolly bar thing if you want to go through. One of the neat features that I like is that you can set up a public URL. So you can actually copy this link. I'll open up a new tab here and paste it. But if you want to share your dashboard with somebody, this is just a view-only look. So people don't have access to the data and can't make any changes to it. So really kind of a neat way to look at the data that way. But editing the dashboard, there are all sorts of different widgets up here that you can bring in. So whether you want a bar graph, you can use these little gas gauges, you can use a windrows, also an odometer. So basically you can have up to 20 widgets per dashboard. And then within these widgets that allow for multiple parameters, you can have up to 20 sensors in there. And when you add these in, the nice thing is you can basically pull from all of the different sensors that are in your account, and it doesn't matter whether it's an MX logger or it's one of the stations or one of the HOBOnets. Basically, this is everything that is currently available within my account, and you can just click on any of them to add it in. You can change some of the colors if you don't like the default color scheme, and then change the name of this. So that's kind of a quick look at the dashboards and some of the visualization you can do. Thanks, Richard. Appreciate it. Sorry, guys, I'm getting long-winded. I am going to get through this here real quick for you. Just bear with me here for about another 5 minutes. I know we had some questions on the exports, so let me get over to that right now. So you can create a new export, and you give it a name. You can have it as a text, an XLS, or a HOBOware CSV. I know a lot of people still use HOBOware, and you can actually import the data using this particular format. But I'm going to get the data that's in my account for the past day. And then what we're going to do is open up this window here. This is going to take a minute because obviously I've got a ton of data that's coming through here. You can open up any of these if you want to do just temperature or humidity. This is one of my stations that has all the sensors attached to it. So you can come through and either select it at the upper level, or you can then deselect some of the things here. And then, yeah, there's a couple things here. You can either save it, which I'm going to save it just so I can show you the data delivery. You can also export it from here. So we'll just let this run here for a second. And where'd it go? Here it is. Sorry, I've got 4 screens down here, so stuff pops up all over the place. But as you can see here, just kind of bring the data in, And so this is kind of a quick way to be able to combine all that data. And again, you can do that whether it's the stations with the RXs or the MX data. So yeah, so again, just a convenient way to be able to get your data kind of all into one place. And finally, we'll take a quick look at the RX devices. Again, I see people falling off, so I appreciate those who are sticking around. Again, sorry for being long-winded. But this is one of the stations that I had at the AHR Expo that we went to a while back, but now it's set up around the house here. So my daughter obviously turned up the heat upstairs in the craft room. It's a little chilly in the basement and it's a little chillier outside. But you can kind of see your data. You can see graphs here, as well as this information can go into the dashboards. You can see logs of what your system has done. But then from a configuration standpoint, we'll just pop over to the alarms real quick because I saw a question there. But this is where you can configure your system alarms. So if something goes missing, a low battery or a sensor failure goes missing, you'll get an alert. Again, you can do that to either a text message or an email. And then when it comes to sensor alarms, one of the things that I do like is, as much as outside of range is sometimes easier, the problem with that alarm is that it'll bounce. So let's say you set up for 32 degrees, and the temperature just doesn't typically drop right off. It goes down gradually. So it could be bouncing below 31.9 to 32.1. So you get a lot of alerts. So there's a nice way to be able to set hysteresis here. So let's say I want it to go above 50 degrees for one logging interval, but then I want to set it below. So when it goes below, let's say 48 degrees, it will then clear the alarm, and that just kind of helps, set up, so it doesn't, so you don't get too many messages essentially. And then you can put a note in here, outside shorts weather, because it's always good to know when it's shorts weather. Although I should really bump that up to 70. And we'll save that. And so what you'll see here is now is the status is yellow. So the next time that the station calls in, it's going to receive any of the new information and then push that out to any of the wireless sensors or the wired sensors. So with that being said, that kind of wraps up the demo here. I think I touched on most of this stuff. Let me take a look and see what we got for questions here. What I'll do also, let me just put up contact information here. And for those of you who've got to run, I say thank you. But let's see what we got going on. Oh my gosh, there is a ton. Cash savings. Yeah, I mean, I don't, there's definitely examples of cash savings, of folks that, that save money using the products. There was an example of air pressure. The compressor was always running, and this maintenance guy didn't want to replace a $50 piece. They figured they could just put tape over it or something like that. And they once they did the run and they fixed it, it turned out that $50 piece ended up costing them about $15,000 because the compressor was just running nonstop. So there's lots of examples like that of energy savings, that can be done out there. All right. I think there's just too many here. Applications. So for those of you who are outside of the United States, we do have distributors. Please go to our website. Um, for some of the countries that are obviously, locked down, I'm not sure if they're getting product in or not. So definitely, contact our local distributor. Let's see what else we got here. Questions on security about the wireless information, um, devices connecting to Wi-Fi. Um, we definitely don't do the government level of Wi-Fi, so definitely you might want to look at cellular. Uh, we've got some folks who are monitoring PV systems, looking at solar arrays. That's absolutely something that the RX3000 can do. Whether you're looking at kilowatt hours, hooking up through a pulse input, then you can also bring in your light measurements. You may want to get temperature measurements. So there's a lot of a lot of options to be able to connect that up. So for HVAC rooftop systems, um, typically, there's a couple different ways you can kind of tackle that. I know a lot of folks will use uh, an amperage measurement as essentially knowing that the thing's running. Usually, if you're trying to do any improvements on it, you don't really need to know exactly how much energy it's used. You're just looking at the differential from before and after. So looking at the current is probably okay. So something like either the MX loggers that you can also hook in temperature probes, so you can get your intake and your outtake temperatures, as well as your what is it, mixed air, I believe. So yeah, using 3 temperature probes and then the CT. You can do the same thing with the RX3000 as well. I think the challenge of using the MX products with the gateway could potentially be trying to get through that roof, and see if you can get a signal. I know at our building, getting up onto the roof, we lose the Wi-Fi signal on top of that. So you may want to look at the RX3000. Thanks again for you folks who are looking for the InTemp and the farmer products. I will certainly get you out some information on that. Oh, Jansen already left. Okay, pH and EC, electroconductivity. That's actually something that the new soil moisture sensors can do. I believe it's the Teros 12, I think. Don't quote me on that, but we do have the capability to do that. Um, and we do have a solution for the RX3000 in pH. So it's a third-party sensor. The RX does have the ability to power most third-party sensors. Um, there was a question here on the MX loggers. Can they power the third-party sensors? They cannot. We actually do sell a power adapter, or you could potentially rig up like a 9-volt battery pack or something like that, depending upon how long you need to record for. What is the minimum equipment for agricultural application for temperature and rain gauge to record information if there are several kilometers between the house and the field? Um, yeah, that's a good question. Kilometers, we're getting kind of far there. Um, we'd have to understand exactly how far. There are repeaters as a part of that system, and now that I'm thinking about it, I didn't put the repeater in the slide deck, so I apologize. So we would have to see maybe how far 5 hops would get us, and also uh, the lay of the land. Is it flat? Is it hilly? How much vegetation is there? Things along those lines. So definitely reach out to one of our salespeople, and they can help you out with that. Oh, cool. Jody's going to be monitoring fine art storage. Excellent application. So yeah, definitely, let us know how we can help. Um, so how much data can be stored in the cloud at once? We have an RX 3000 that stores data for the last 7 days, so we need to download it every 7 days. That doesn't make sense. So you can store as much data as you want in HOBOlink in the cloud account. Basically, the data is there for the life of your account. Um, you must have been talking about a different product. We'll have to dig into that. But yeah, that data going into HOBOlink is going to be there until you either delete the account. And honestly, I think if you come back in, the data is probably still there. I don't think we get rid of it, to be honest with you. HOBOlink subscriptions work outside of the US. Absolutely, we will take your money anywhere in the world. For those who might be using RX's, the stations outside of the US, I know a lot of folks, which I didn't mention either, we allow you to get your own SIM. So, I know in many locations in Europe, um, and South America and Africa, you can get your own SIMs much cheaper than what we can do. So we work on the T-Mobile and AT&T networks, so you can definitely get that. Yeah, so I touched on this a little earlier. Looking at some of the other, and that's actually, I was going to bring that up here. Looking at some of the other measurements that we offer for water quality, that these are still just in, some of these are in USB, so conductivity, dissolved oxygen, so pH is obviously in the Bluetooth. So um, those are a couple of the other water quality measurements. We do offer evapotranspiration. That's actually a calculated channel in the cloud. So we're looking to expand upon that more, hopefully, in the future. All right, I think I got to most of these. There's still 111 of you guys hanging around. Thank you. Uh, right, here's some more at the bottom. Yeah, so the subscription fees for HOBOlink, it's for the MX Gateway. It doesn't matter how many loggers you get. It's essentially based around the gateway. So wind speed over 200 kilometers. So one of the companies we work with, um, we work with, who do we work with? We have some adapter cables here. RM Young. So RM Young have some higher quality wind sensors, something like this. Some of their wind monitor and some of these guys that that are more for marine environments and things like that. I definitely check out some of the RM Young sensors. And again, we have an adapter cable to hook up to a number of their different models if you want to find something that's either more rugged or rated to a higher, oh yeah, for a ski center, of course. Yeah, so I would definitely look at RM Young. Um, that that's they do have higher quality. Not to say that ours aren't good, but they do have higher max ratings. You know, and then obviously they've got a really good marine quality one as well. Um, there was one question I saw, and I don't know where it went, but putting the temperature probes into something that's pressurized. So yeah, I don't see that being an issue with the temperature probe going in there. It's just a stainless steel housing at the tip with the thermistor in there. Um, there was one question that came up earlier on extending the temperature probes on the 2200 series, which we can't do. But if you look at the 1104, we can go up to 50 feet. We have cable lengths in 1, 6, 20, and 50 feet. So I'm not sure if that will actually meet your needs, but Hoskins Scientific in Canada is open. One of the Hoskins guys are on here, so thank you very much. Well, I'm going to kind of put it this. I thank you very much. You know, I really appreciate this. If I missed your question, I'm going to go through all these afterwards, and you know, either myself or one of our application folks will follow up with you. Again, thanks for sticking with me. Hopefully, I provided you a little bit of entertainment here. It's unfortunate we couldn't get the live video going here, as that I'm sure that would have been interesting. But you know, thank you again, and absolutely reach out to our folks. You know, there's Eileen, there's Sean, there's Matt, there's Taryn, um, Shannon, who else is there? Oh, and Becky moved on. She's not here anymore. So if you guys have any questions for Becky, and you may have worked with her in the past, please reach out to Matt or Taryn, and they'll be able to help you. So thanks again, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and social distance. Thank you.